We would like to bring to you all the facts that people have been pondering about if Mr. Bill Gates and the Melinda Foundation are involved in the creation of the coronavirus. Of course, our objective is to just place before y'all the facts, and it is up to y'all to decide what to believe in. The first question: what is Mr. Bill Gates' involvement with the coronavirus, and why is his name being so much prevalent, though he doesn't hold a medical degree, neither is a specialist in vaccines? Yet on and on and on we've been seeing the name of Mr. Bill Gates coming up whenever we talk about coronavirus or COVID-19 or about the vaccines. What is the cause for that? Foremost, you got to know, who is Mr. Bill Gates? Bill Gates is the boss of Microsoft. Now, what is Microsoft? It is that software that is running in almost 80% of the machines. In short, Mr. Bill Gates is a tech boss. And not only that, Mr. Bill Gates is the second richest person. In fact, at one point of time, he was considered to be the richest man, up until the boss of Amazon took over. And the truth of the matter is, Mr. Warren Buffett has been now pushed to a distant 5th place. In short, Mr. Bill Gates' worth is around $103 billion. And do you know what it means, $103 billion, and what it can do? It can literally buy countries out. Many of the countries' GDP is not even a distant minuscule of it. In other words, not even a tiny drop of that $103 billion make up a GDP of nations in this world. And that is for a single man's worth. So, to start off with, this important question was asked in one of the forums to Mr. Bill Gates. And the question is, what changes are we going to have to make to how businesses operate to maintain our economy while providing social distancing? Now listen to the answer that Mr. Bill Gates is giving. The question of which businesses should keep going is tricky. Well, okay, certainly food supply and the health system. We still need water, electricity, and the internet. Supply chains for critical things need to be maintained. Countries are still figuring out what to keep running. Okay. Eventually, please note here, this is the key point, we will have some digital certificates to show what? Digital certificates to show who has recovered or whom been tested recently, or when we have a vaccine, who has received it. A key point. This is a very powerful statement from Mr. Bill Gates. We will have some digital certificates, and what do you make out of it? So the understanding that the educated mind has conceived, or I would say has conveyed to them, is this: that microchip would be planted via the vaccines, and that would give a greater control of those people running the show. That is the understanding that has been conveyed to the educated minds, and that is the reason, or I would say that is one of the reasons for such apprehensive behavior on the part of the people, because you have to understand that people have the ability to connect dots. They are not dumb. The ability to connect the dots and to observe the times, the patterns, that is the super intelligence given only to the humans. And that is why people are becoming apprehensive. So the understanding from these words and the information that has been conveyed to them has now led people to concretely believe that through the vaccine they are going to be chipped. So the conclusion that is brought about here is, from the educated mind, is that this coronavirus so-called pandemic has been created by the individual, Mr. Gates. That's the understanding that they have been conveyed to, is mainly to have people chipped so that they can have a better control of their movements, to add more substance to their belief that Mr. Gates has been directly linked with the creation of the coronavirus. There was this Instagram post placed in by Mr. Gates which read, "Thank you, healthcare workers," and there was at least 1 million plus views for that. And this was not a joke, and there is a huge understanding behind that post. And all these things had helped people to make up their minds with a greater understanding that no matter what, that they don't want to receive these vaccine and get chipped, because from all these acts and speeches from Mr. Bill Gates, the only understanding that has been concrete here is the population reduction theory, which was floated on several years or several decades ago, is now taking roots. And this is the understanding that people are getting. So this has led to the people's interpretation, or I would say the belief, that there is a huge ulterior motive on part of Mr. Gates in floating this virus and putting people's lives in danger. And this has been justified by a strong stance for the vaccine and administering vaccine to the people. Now, just to add insights, now the Abject, there's a company called as Abject. Now this company is now bringing up with a mechanism by which a chip can be injected through the vaccine. Instead of using the normal glass vial, they are using a plastic mechanism by which the vaccine can be injected along with the microchip. And that has been a big news, and the doctor or the company owner was recently interviewed by a news channel. It was very elaborate in how the RFID chip can be injected via the vaccine. Now, of course, in defense of Mr. Gates, there are several mainstream medias which are making the statement that microchip is never possible to be administered via the vaccine, and they quote the words from Mr. Benjamin, the director of American Public Health Association, saying that according to him, now he makes the statement that he is not aware of a microchip being placed via the vaccine. Now the question here, or the important point that has to be noted here, Mr. Benjamin or Dr. Benjamin did not say that microchip cannot be placed or administered via the vaccine. He says that he is not aware how a microchip can be administered via the vaccine. So the important point is, he clearly states that he is not aware. There is a huge difference being unaware of a certain information and totally denying that information. Now, Dr. Benjamin did not deny that microchip cannot be administered. He said he is not aware. Next defense that they would place with regard to Mr. Gates mentioning digital certificates is to the fact that 2018, this gentleman called McHangle from the UK was talking about the personal child health record. So whenever a child gets vaccinated, the child's name is entered in what is called as a red book, and that red book would be digitalized. And that is what Gates was referring to. So that digitalization is nothing but digital certificates. This is what is called as heights of idiosyncrasy. In all honesty, that is totally a different understanding what McHangle was talking about to the understanding of what people receive when people read the statements from Mr. Gates. How can you relate these two different things and have a common striking inferences? This is what is called as conspiracy, according to the educated mind. Now the question is, why would a child need digital certificate? That is the biggest question. It is also imperative to note here that Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has been funding the Fulbright Institute, which is specializing in pursuing research in preventing and controlling viral diseases, and it is located at Surrey, England. And not only that, this institute holds the patent for coronavirus. Well, if you are interested, you need to do some research. We are here merely to give you the information as to why Mr. Gates and Melinda Gates Foundation have been connected. So much so with these issues that we are facing now. Now, what is more alarming is that the date of patent given was November 20, 2018, and the virus took off in the month of November, December 2019. Now, is there any connections? Well, I leave it to the audience. Now, the another vital question to be asked here is, what has a tech multi-billionaire got to do with the vaccination program? Why is he suddenly being so much caring for the world's population, for the world's children? And all these connections have to be answered. You are into software, you are into computers. Instead of giving free education for the students, for the poor people, or even computers. The cost of a laptop is gargantuan, and now to install Windows, you got to pay, right? Windows is not cheap. If you want to do some really good things to the people, reduce the cost of Windows. Don't even charge for Windows. You are charging Herculean fee for Windows, and every update has an issue, and in spite of that, you want all the computers that have been bought which has an Windows have to hold a license for using the Windows, and now you are getting into population reduction. That is a question people want to ask. Now, Bill and Melinda starts up the vaccination program with $100 million to establish this fund. It's called the Bill and Melinda Gates Children Vaccine Program. Now the question is, why are they targeting the children? That is the question. When people are so much apprehensive, people are so much frightened about vaccination, there are so many countless stories of people are losing their health because of vaccination. Why you want to start philanthropy? Why not you start a home for the aged? There are plenty of homeless people, plenty of people in the US specifically suffering during the winter times, right? Just the other day, tons of people being affected by the flooding why not build them a good house, give education to the children? Instead, why $100 million gift to establish the children vaccine program? This is the question that people want the answers from Mr. Bill Gates. When the question was posed, this is the answer they gave. It was to accelerate access to new vaccines for children in developing nations. Why would you want to bother about developing nations? They have their problems, they have their issues. Let them take care of their problems and issues. Why? Who gave you the caretaker's obligation for their people? And the alarming truth now is Bill Gates Foundation tested a polio vaccine in India between 2000 and 2017 and paralyzed children. This is not we telling you this. This is a Facebook post. You can go and check it up. Now, problem with India is India has a huge population and majority of the people are living far below the poverty line. So whenever they see somebody like this coming, their idea is these people are going to do good to them. But they do not understand that their children are being treated or taken as guinea pigs for trying out vaccines. What for? Why? Give me a good cause. Are you a medical practitioner? Have you done research in vaccine? How many papers have you published? And what moral standing is there that is inspiring you? What is the story that you have that you can share with us, that you have been interested in the health of children? It's not only health, people. It is not health. It's vaccination. For information, 23 million children are dying because of what? According to reports, they don't have nutrition. There is a serious lack of quality food available for the poor children. We are not saying this. This is according to reports. You can go check it out. Now, when they don't have food to eat, Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation, or the other way, Bill Gates and Melinda Foundation, they want to inject these poor children with their so-called vaccines. They don't have food to eat, but they want to take their bodies away. Can you believe this? Take away their health, take away their power. Just the other day, I'm not sure if you'd have played or if you'd have seen that movie Warcraft, how that demon sucks the power out of humans. This is what people are thinking. This is exactly what is happening. Now, more alarming to this apprehension that people have got is the statement that Mr. Bill Gates made in 2017 at a Munich Security Conference, where he warns of an epidemic that could kill over 30 million people. The statement that he gave there was, whether it occurs by a quirk of nature or at the end of a terrorist, epidemiologists say a fast-moving airborne pathogen could kill more than 30 million people in less than a year. And they say there is a reasonable probability the world will experience such a outbreak. Can you believe that? He says, epidemiologist says. Who is that? You would like to know who has said that. And he also continues that they say that it could kill 30 million people in less than. How do they know? That's an important question. And fast-moving airborne pathogens, now how do they know it is going to be airborne? Such vital questions. And why should he make these statements at the conference? Why? What is the connectivity? Now, following it up, he gives a statement to the Times. The pandemic is like a world war, except that we are all on the same side. Now, the question is, 2019, in the month of Feb, he immediately speaks his mind out. He speaks his heart out. As I say, the mouth merely speaks what the heart has already conceived. And if you were to read the news, the spread of the virus did not take such magnitude proportions, or in fact, the media and the so-called helping health workers, they did not magnify it in such greater levels up until statements like this were released. And the statement is what Mr. Bill Gates said, and I quote here, "The only thing that keeps me awake at night is the thought of a pandemic." Can you believe that? It's been 100 years since we had a huge flu epidemic. Well, 100 years ago, the flu that struck cannot be considered as an epidemic. It was in fact a pandemic. It killed around 30 million people, and that time the population of the world was around 1 billion. And to compare coronavirus to a pandemic of such proportion, it should literally take some extensive thought process for an individual to say such a thing as what Mr. Bill Gates has said. Now, to add to all those things, they are making another statement. This is a unique situation. We are in a unique position to help, and today we are announcing additional funding of 150 million. That brings our total commitment so far to more than 250 million. The much important question is, there is a saying in the Latin language, or it's a very old saying, that you hurt the baby and then you rock the cradle. In other words, you pinch the baby and then you rock the cradle. And that is exactly that has been happening. You get into all these things, you spread your good works, and then you say that you are giving $250 million to help the people fight off the pandemic. Can you believe this? Then he goes on to write a 13-page article, Pandemic 1, the first modern pandemic. The question that has to be asked is he a doctor, a medical doctor, or a pandemic expert, a vaccine expert, a microbiologist? How come he is able to write this 13-page article with the title Pandemic 1? So that means there are more coming down the line. That's what the educated people are thinking. Now, in his 13-page article, he raises the following question. Is it the disease seasonal? What group of people are asymptomatic? What symptoms are required to get tested? What activities increase the chance of contracting the virus? And which group of people are more susceptible or more prone to get the virus? Now, the much important question here is, why would you want to know the answers to these questions? Now, Mr. Bill Gates responds in this following fashion to this question: what could bring the world back to its normalcy? So he says, short of a miracle treatment, which we can't count on, okay, the only way to return the world where it was before the COVID showed up is a highly effective vaccine that prevents the disease. Now, you see, there are two contradictory statements that you can read here. He starts off with saying that short of a medical treatment, which we cannot count, okay, that's the starting line. And he ends that a highly effective vaccine that prevents the disease. Now, can you observe the two contradictions? At one point, he starts off with saying we cannot count on it, and then he says that a powerful vaccine will be the healing treatment. What sort of contradictory statements a person can make? Or if you would have analyzed after the people started to suspect, it's always that suspicion that gathers momentum and evidences are accumulated. This is how the detectives and the crime bureaus, they solve the crime. After the suspicion arose from the people's mind and from the educated mind, on and on and on, Mr. Bill Gates had been trying to justify his stance that he has nothing to do with this. No, there is a saying, it's an old saying, it says that up until the person denies the crime, that is when you know it is he or she who has done the crime. In the interest of time, we conclude here and leave it to the audience, because the objective of this newscast is to present facts and facts with information. Thank you.